Hello, how's it going? A warm welcome to episode 3 of the Reflections podcast. I'm Sean Butcher, people development consultant and founder of Reflect Consultancy. And on today's episode, I'm delighted to be speaking with Head of Digital PR from Yard, Lou Ali. I'm sure many of you will know Lou from Twitter, but she's also an experienced leader, someone who I see shouting about her team regularly, and she is also a passionate advocate for mental health in the workplace. Lou is speaking at Brighton in April 2023 with a talk called Self-Esteem Optimization, the most important type of SEO, which sounds incredible. So I thought it was a good time to catch up with her, find out a bit about what she'll be discussing, as well as talk a little bit more about her experiences managing mental health in the workplace. So sit back and enjoy the episode. So, hi Lou, how's it going?
Hi, I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Thank you very much. Did you want to start by introducing yourself to everyone? And also, if you don't mind, something we're doing with every guest that we're having on the podcast is a random fact that perhaps no one will know about you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So yeah, I'm Lou Ali, Louise. I'm the head of digital PR at Yard Digital. I've been there for about a year, about 15 months or so now. So probably not really new anymore. But those who don't know Yard, we're a data-driven digital marketing agency, and we're kind of like split into 3 chunks. So we've got like a data team, which focuses mainly on analytics, mostly on Adobe. So they like basically review data setups and make sure they make suggestions on how to gather better data. And then we've got Cubed, which is like they use machine learning, and so uses historical attribution data to predict future actions. And the Cube team basically build models to predict different things like trends and how much value each channel has and stuff like that. And then we've got the search team, which is the team that I lead. And we obviously have like tech SEO, content, and digital PR. So it's a well-rounded agency covering a lot of things. Yeah, and then when I'm not working hard, I'm mumming hard. So I've got 2 children. I've got Leo, who's 4, and Bella, who is 2, and they're awesome. I obviously think so. And they're very fun, very funny, but very, very exhausting. So they love to keep me up at night, and you'll often find me like dead on my feet, like exhausted, but they make it all worthwhile. So yeah, the interesting fact thing is I knew you do this because I saw the interview with Jazz, and at first I was like, oh my God, what am I going to say about myself? Because to be honest, I'm quite an open book and I don't really think that I hold much back. So I was like, what is it that people don't know? But I did think of something. So my interesting fact is that I appeared on the Derren Brown TV special called The Seance. I'm not sure if you saw that, but basically he came to like a bunch of universities, did a show, and then at the end of the show, he was like, would anyone like to be on TV? I've got a special coming up. And obviously at the time I was like, yes, I would like to be on TV. So hung about, and then he does all these like tests to see like how susceptible you are to like his mind games and stuff. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, I just really wanted to be on TV. So it's just like, just went along with it. And I think that one of the tests was something like a flying chair, and so at one point I was like, oh my God, this chair is going to get me. But whatever I did, it worked, and I ended up being on a TV show, and it was loads of good fun. You know, I think he knew though that I was faking it, because at one point we were actually doing the seance, and we were like sat there like, can you hear me? Like, are the spirits coming and all of that? And then all of a sudden, like, I got like electrocuted in the arse.
Wow.
Yeah. And it caused me to like jump up on my chair and scream, which then resulted in everyone else screaming, like going, oh, like madness. But so yeah, I think that was my punishment for faking it from Derren Brown. So that's my interesting fact.
Amazing. I love asking these questions because you just find out so much stuff that you would never know.
Never have known that about me, about my story of being electrocuted up the arse by Derren Brown.
Brilliant. Oh wow. And yes, can definitely relate to the the children with lots of energy. Yes, I have a 5-year-old daughter as well. So
you've been there. I should be coming to you for tips.
It's a whirlwind, but we wouldn't change it for the world, right?
Exactly right.
Brilliant. Oh, well, pleasure to have you on the podcast, Lou. I obviously wanted to talk to you because, you know, you're in a position of leadership at Yards. And I guess a theme that's coming out of these podcasts so far is that journey to leadership. And, you know, some love it, some don't like it so much. It seems like that's something that you've kind of always wanted to do, and you've been doing it for a while now. So what is it about leading people that you really love?
I think what I love most about it is, you know, we spend so much time at work, you know, so it's really, really important to sort of make these sort of connections with people so you can support them. I just love supporting people. I'm a real people person. So I think probably about 80% of the people that I've hired have actually all been completely fresh, like to the industry or into work and all that. So what I get a real, I don't know, what really sort of makes me happy is like taking these young people and just being a part of their journey and help guide them through and, you know, support them when they're struggling. You know, I'm a real one for pep talks and, you know, cheering people up. And, you know, I work really hard to sort of try and uncover the person and see who they are, what makes them tick. So I really try and work closely with people to sort of just get the best out of them and make sure they're doing the work that is going to bring out the best in them, if you know what I mean. So I love nurturing young talent. I love helping people that have already got loads of talent, of course. You know, and I just take real pride in watching them flourish and grow.
Definitely. Yeah, that's similar to me as well. I think, you know, seeing the journeys of people, particularly I think those, like you say, younger people or less experienced people that maybe are new to the industry and haven't got to the point where they know a huge amount. But if you're able to kind of have an influence on them and their career and see them really kind of grow and develop, I don't think there's much else more rewarding than that.
Exactly. And I've been so lucky. I could say hand on heart, I've had great leaders throughout my career, like right from the start. And I think good leaders, at least, are born from great leaders. And so I just want to be part of that sort of, I don't know, that sort of connection, you know what I mean? So it's like, I've had great leaders, they taught me great things, so I want to be a great leader to try and teach younger people good things so that they then can become good leaders and, you know, hopefully continue the cycle.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, like kind of passing that on based on, you know, the good experiences that you've had and then nurturing that kind of next generation. Yeah, you mentioned pep talks there, which is quite interesting. And obviously you're speaking at BrightonSEO in April about kind of confidence. I think the title is self-esteem optimization, the most important type of SEO, which sounds amazing. Definitely want to go and watch that one. And would you be able to share some of the things that you're going to be covering, and also why you feel that building your self-confidence and self-esteem are such important things?
Yeah, I mean, it's a topic that I am super passionate about. I'm not a counselor or a psychologist, so everything that I know is through personal experience. So I've had my own struggles with mental health, and I've done all sorts of types of therapy and done a load of reading on it. And it's just something that I sort of feel like I've picked up so much. I've kind of got my own sort of like mental health ducks in a row. And I feel like I'm in quite a good position now to like take everything that's happened to me, like all the negative stuff, all the learnings that I've got, and then try and sort of pass them on, like, you know, and try and help other people with that. I feel like, you know, the digital PR industry in particular, like it's hard. Like we are so lucky to work in this industry, and no doubt, like, you know, we do the most fun campaigns, we get such rewards like when the campaign goes well, but there's so much negative stuff around it as well, because obviously you're consuming media all the time, which is pretty negative at the moment. You're pitching ideas to clients that you're really passionate about, but you know, sometimes a client won't go for it, and that's pretty disappointing. And obviously you're pitching to journalists, and you know what they're like. So it can be really, really tough, like in that particular job as well. But this isn't just for digital PR people, this is for like everyone, because obviously we've just been through like COVID, we've got like economic crisis. I think today even it's announced that we're going to go into recession. You know, mass redundancies are in the press all the time at the moment. It's a really, really scary time. I think like there was a stat from Mind which said something like there'd been a decline in mental health, but within like a third of people had seen a decline in their mental health over the last 3 years, which is just like terrifying. And a lot of that is actually down to like the isolation period that we all felt like during lockdown. I think it's like 9 in 10 people saw a decline in their mental health just because of the isolation. So it's like we've gone through basically like what is basically a trauma, you know. And I think like, you know, when you go into a trauma, you can kind of go into like a sort of a fight or flight mode. And with COVID, you couldn't really flight. So you kind of like literally sort of stuck in the situation. So my observation from it all was actually at first, everyone kind of went into fight mode, and they were kind of like, right, let's do this. Like, we're all going to like work from home. We're going to deal with clients this way. We're going to manage our teams that way. And we're all going to learn how to make cupcakes and do pub quizzes and stuff like that, and we'll get through it together, and that will be great. And so it was okay. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't great to start off with, but it was, you know, we found a way to sort of make it okay. But then obviously as time goes on, it chips away at you and it gets exhausting, and like, you know, you sort of like, you have real upsets, and people lost loved ones, and you know, just missing the connection that you get with like your friends, your family. It completely drains you. And the problem is as well with something like COVID is that you don't have like an end date to it. Like, it's still going on. So there was never a moment where we're like, hooray, it's over. So it's kind of like we're kind of like in this hangover period, I think. And it feels to me now that it's a really, really good time to be like, okay, right, that has happened. There are still elements of it still happening, but we move. So let's rebuild. Let's regain our power. Like, we lost our power. We lost a say in what we were able to do sort of day to day. But now we can regain that. And we've got a new normal, new way of working, like with remote working being so common and stuff like that. So it's like, let's now rebuild ourselves. And that absolutely starts, I think, with self-esteem, because like during that period of isolation, again, people like had a lot of time to think, you know, and a lot of time to question who they were, what they were doing in life, and all of that sort of stuff. So I just think it's definitely like an individual responsibility to sort of manage that, but it's tough to do. It's a real it's hard work to sort of like work on your self-esteem, because you've really got to get to grips with who you are, what's impacted you to make you who you are, what your triggers are, and how you can work to sort of rebuild that, and then like how you can practice self-care to sort of like manage all of that sort of stuff. So it's very much an individual journey, but there's loads of stuff I think that leaders and organizations can do to support people in that journey. And of course, if you are a leader or like an organization, you know, then you kind of have to do the work on yourself in order to be able to help other people, because it's like, you know, you can't really pour from an empty cup type thing, you know. So I think this talk hopefully will have a positive impact on all levels of people. And I really just want to get them to understand like what low self-esteem looks like, what high self-esteem looks like, where it sort of stems from, the learned behaviors that sort of have the greatest impact on self-esteem, because that's the thing. It's like, if you want to repair anything, you kind of have to diagnose it first, you know. So and that's where the real hard work I think comes from. It's like actually sort of really looking inside yourself and being like, oh my God, I've got this issue. This is the thing that is a problem for me. Where has that come from? What's happened in my life that's impacted me to become this way or to have these feelings? And then being, okay, well, I can own that. and I can work around that and move forward with that and not let it sort of bring me down. And then hopefully as well, my aim is to also give people some like practical advice on what they can do day to day to sort of like, you know, manage their happiness levels, really, because you know, I just want everyone to be happy and get on.
Definitely, that's always the aim. That's always the aim.
That's the aim, yeah. So yeah, it starts with us, really. It starts with you. So yeah, that's the purpose.
Yeah, indeed. And I think we talked a little bit even before we started recording today about that importance of looking after yourself, because it does start with you, right? And I always go back to that, you know, the being on a flight and them always saying put your own oxygen mask on before helping someone else, you know, if you need to, because and that's kind of the same in lots of areas of life, right? You've got to help yourself before you can help others.
100%. Yeah, no, that, to be honest, actually, that was the metaphor I was trying to think of, but not the pour from an empty cup. Like, okay. But it's absolutely that. It's the oxygen mask thing, because it's like, you know, I actually wanted to do a lot of this work on myself before I became a parent, because I didn't want all of that baggage that I had to then sort of like be passed down onto my kids. But what I found through working on myself in that way was that it affected everything, you know, like, so it was able to sort of make me better as a manager or a leader or whatever, a better colleague as well, and a better employee, you know. So, and then obviously like my relationships, you know, with my husband, with my family, with, you know, with everyone. So yeah, I think this definitely goes beyond work. This is, you know, this is just a life skill, I think, and it's really important that people recognize that there is no harm in facing up to this, and to acknowledge that we are all imperfect, like we all have our flaws, and that's absolutely cool, like it's fine. So it's just like, but if you've got something that's going on that's not helping you reach your full potential, then let's address that. Let's find out how we can make it better. So yeah, that's something I'd really like to be a part of.
Sounds like an absolutely fascinating talk. So yeah, really looking forward to that. We touched a little bit there on the pandemic, and definitely I totally agree with you. When early on there was a bit of a kind of rally together, and there was almost a bit of enthusiasm because it was new, and it was, I don't want to say exciting, but it was different, right? Like, it was a bit
exciting.
Yeah, like we've all got to go home, we've all got to like change the way we work. But then I think by the end of that year, like around November, December 2020, definitely saw a massive like drop in morale, in, you know, people's mood and attitude, and things really changed. And I think you're right, like we're almost starting to, you know, go on the upward trajectory now. Like people are starting to learn how to adapt and work differently, but it's obviously a big kind of process and change there that we've got to deal with. I think obviously one of the big things is, you know, we now, most of us work in a kind of hybrid or remote way. How have you kind of had to adapt your leadership style, or what kind of challenges have you seen from that shift to more kind of remote and hybrid working? And how easy is it, I guess, to spot some of the signs of distress and mental health within your team members because of that change that we've had to kind of go through?
Yeah, I mean, so I am fully remote. So Yard have got offices in Edinburgh and in Cardiff, and I'm in Surrey, so I'm here all the time. I obviously go and visit the team as often as I can, but again, like having kids, it does make it a little bit harder. So, you know, as much as I would love to spend more time with my people, but you know, you've just got to make it work with the situation that you're in. And it, like, let's not all put negativity on the remote working situation. It's, for mental health in particular, it's also great. You know, there are loads of benefits with it. Like for me in my personal situation at the moment, I don't know how I would juggle parenthood with you know, if I had to hours commute to work, busy day at work, and hours commute home, pick up from nursery, make tea, bath, bed, all of that sort of stuff. So I tip my hat to anyone who does that, you know, because I'm just like stretched for time as it is. But like the way that I work now enables me to sort of balance that so much better and feel much more involved in my children's lives. Like, you know, if they're ill, I'm able to go and pick them up and, you know, look after them. And, you know, the amount of work conference calls they've joined me on, it's a joke. So, you know, so there are like benefits to it, definitely. I think it affords people the opportunity to have a better work-life balance, and you know, and it forces people to sort of make the effort to have a break. And, you know, so it's like when I was working in office, people so often have like lunch at their desk, and, you know, that's no good. And, you know, the only time they go out be like for a fag break or something like that, and that's just like awful. Whereas now it's like, you know, all of us were like, okay, I'm going for my lunchtime walk, or we're doing this, we're doing that. And you know, it's, so there are benefits, there are definitely benefits, but it is also a big challenge, and it's really difficult, I think, to sort of like spot these sort of social, physical, emotional cues that you would get just sort of walking past people day to day, you know, in the office. So it can take a little bit more time before you realize that actually there's a problem. And this is where it's sort of like, it's really important to sort of get under the skin of the people that you're working with, and to really know what is going to be a potential issue for them, what they're going to really struggle with, because then you can try and sort of preempt when there's going to be a challenge, and you can sort of like be ready to support them. So I think that is more important now as a leader. Like, that is something that maybe I put more focus and emphasis on now than I did maybe when I was working in office, because I would just rely on being there and people just telling me if they like were struggling, you know. And I think, like, you know, it is harder to build those relationships as well. Like, I love people, and I feel like when I'm in a room with people, like, you know, we bounce off each other, we have a laugh, and we really truly connect. It's like when I went to my work Christmas party, there's people there that are working in, you know, different teams that I have nothing to do with day to day, and they were like my best friend by the end of it, you know, and that was great. And like, you just, it would just feel weird for me to just like do a Teams call with them completely randomly before that and be like, oh, hi, we've never met before, would you be my friend? You know? So whereas, like, you know, when you're working in an office with like 20, 50, 100 people, your sort of like group or the camaraderie of it all, it's easier to sort of build that. And I think honestly that's why digital PR Twitter has really jumped off as well, because I think that's almost like an extension of your like office family. Like, we're not colleagues, but we are, like, in a way we all share the same sort of goals, ambitions, we all have the same issues, we all get the same shitty journalist emails and all of that sort of thing, and we can all relate to everything that everyone's going through. So I think having that, like, many industries don't have that, and I feel like privileged to have that. I think it's really nice sort of extension of my work family, if you know what I mean. So that is like something, I think, like the way that you sort of like handle it is, you know, you've obviously always got to have regular check-ins, and you've got to be really tight with them, like, and really make sure they do happen. Because again, if you're in the office, you could just be like, oh, I see you, and how's it going, all that sort of thing. Whereas, like, you know, you set aside that time, you don't move that time, you stick to it, and you engage with that person. It's not about just, you know, how's work going, have you done this project, blah 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 blah. It's like, how are you, like, what is happening, and, you know, really connecting on a bit more of a deeper level. I think, you know, it sort of goes back to what I was saying earlier, like when you're in isolation, there's a lot of time for like negative thoughts, and I think it's really important that, you know, when you're like leading a team that are all remote working, if something sort of bad happens, you're very quick then to sort of like jump in and make sure they're not left alone sitting with those thoughts. So I see that as my big responsibility, because it's like, again, if you're in an office, there's a whole bunch of you around you to sort of like help lift you up when, you know, the going gets tough. But you know, not everyone sees that when you're remote working. So not everyone knows what you're going through or knows what's happening. So we had a thing yesterday where Molly May has announced that her baby is called Bambi, as I'm sure many of your viewers will know. And
I didn't.
And that's why I said that, because as I said that, I was like, he doesn't know that.
I doubt it. No.
So anyway, just to let you know, Sean, like, Molly May's had a baby called Bambi. So me, like probably half the digital PR industry was like, right, let's do a campaign and we'll look at Disney baby names and which one's the most popular. And so I put it out there to the team and they were like, yes, like this is so cool, let's do it. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, I know I'm not the only person who's thought of this. This is just like a race to the bottom, to be honest with you. It's like, who is going to do this so blatantly obvious thing the fastest? And so obviously we had a crack at it, and I gave it to one of the girls on my team. She was really keen on it. She spent, you know, time, effort, like pulling it all together. And 5 minutes before we're about to launch or send out a press release, someone else has got it, and it's got amazing coverage. So there's just nothing you can do. You just have to like let that go. And me in that situation, I'm like, oh, that's so frustrating, like, you know, but it's kind of half what I expected. But for her, I know what she's like. I know, like, she's a people pleaser, like, and she just wants, I think more than worrying about the impact on like her day or anything like that, she was more worried about, I think, maybe what I would think, or that she wasn't able to do this amazing piece, which would have done amazing. It has done amazing, you know. So she just really wanted to do this campaign and please people. So it's like when this stuff came through, I was on a call because I saw in the corner of my eye that, you know, this had already got coverage. So I sent her a message like straight away, and I'm like, I'm going to call you straight away as soon as I'm off this call, right? But just don't panic. And then, you know, so you've just got to be willing to pretty much drop everything at these times for the right people that need that sort of support, and just go straight in there and be like, it's fine, don't worry. And it's not on her, you know, like I think as a leader as well, you kind of have to be like, let your team take the wins, like they can have the wins. But when it's a loss, like it's on you as well, you know. And because and straight away I was like, you know, I'm so sorry, I should have done it faster and all this sort of thing. I was like, no, like I should have flagged, but I thought that this was probably going to happen anyway, you know, not by us. And I should have done this, I should have done that, and all of this sort of stuff. And it's about sort of like sharing that sort of responsibility and not laying all the like blame on, like there's no blame, like it's, we say it all the time, it's like PR not ER, it's no big deal, you know. And so it's just about making sure that, and that's how people feel really supported. It's when you're just sort of like completely in it with them. It's like, you know, I feel you, I completely understand where you're coming from, I'm gutted as well. We you know, we tried our best, it didn't work out. We'll go into the next thing. We'll keep that data, and next time some celebrity has a crazy baby name, we'll push it out again, and we'll be the fastest ones, you know. So I think it's really important just to sort of be aware. It's like someone else in my team who had done that, I know that they would have been fine if I'd just sent a message going FFS, like, you know, like it is what it is, like what are we going to move on to next sort of thing. So it's just about making sure that you're really aware of like who needs that right sort of attention and being there, you know. And that's just really sort of like build this culture of like communication, collaboration, and so it all feels very natural, and this is just how we roll, you know. So
yeah, I mean, that you covered a lot of really great points there, and I think you almost kind of finished on the one which I was going to pick back up on, but that kind of understanding individual needs. And I think now that we are, you know, mostly remote or hybrids, and like you say, you can't see everyone every single day and pick up those cues like you would if you were in the office. Just being able to preempt what might be a cause for them personally of poor mental health and things like that, and trying to uncover those earlier in your relationship with them.
Exactly. Like you've got to get them really in the moment. Like you can't just sort of like sit on these sort of things and be like, well, we've got to check in tomorrow. I'll ask her how she feels about it then. You know, it's like, no, these people, like, these are people, you know, they real life human beings with like so many emotions, so many hopes. And you know, we set ourselves quite high targets in this game, I think. And you know, I am big fan of digital PR Twitter. I love when people share their success and their results and stuff like that, but it sets the bar high, you know, and I think everyone thinks that this is what they've got to achieve, and if I'm not doing this, and you know, I'm not doing so well, and that sort of thing. So it's really important to just sort of assure people that that isn't the case. Like, success doesn't look the same for everyone, and you know, I value everyone in my team for the contributions that they bring. Like, everyone brings something different. And
yeah, it goes back again to understanding those individual needs, right? Because I guess not everyone needs a lot of praise. They're kind of fine, or maybe a bit more self-sufficient with that, whilst others obviously need that reassurance a bit more frequently, and that's okay. And when you understand that, then you can work with that.
Everyone wants praise. Everyone wants to know they're doing a good job. So yeah, I never shy away from telling people that they're awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess we've talked a lot there about, you know, some of the ways that you look after your employees and their mental health and well-being. I just now, I guess, wanted to go back to you, and we talked, you know, about your Brighton talk. That whilst, you know, it's obviously very important for us to be looking after employees, like looking after yourself is incredibly important as well. You know, we know that leadership roles come with their own demands and challenges and stresses. So what kinds of things do you do personally to kind of make sure that you're kind of staying at the top of your game, I suppose?
Yeah, no, I think like that's a really big question, actually, because you know, I haven't got it right all the time, like, definitely not. And the times that I've not got it right have been when I reflect, I can see the correlation is about where my mental health was at. And that's not an excuse. That is just me being like, oh, like, that is how important it is. It really does impact my leadership style, you know? So it's, you know, I think like great management, well, in fact, great leadership is about awareness. And I think it's like, you've got to have awareness of yourself as a leader. Like, so, you know, to know even if you're right for that role, you know? So it's like, for me, there's like managers and leaders. That's why I keep sort of like flipping, like every time I say manager, I'm like, no, leader. But like there is management and leadership, because like managers, for me, they're like micromanage, they're very task, project focused, things like that. And that's great, but you shouldn't be managing people. You should be managing projects, you know? Leadership, I think, is about the people and inspiring them and helping them grow, nurturing them, supporting them, and all of that sort of wonderful, fluffy stuff. And in order to do that, you really have to put on your oxygen mask, you know? So, and so the times when I've not got it right is when I have been like super, super stressed. I've been focusing on the wrong things. I was focusing on, you know, helping, you know, hit targets, get profit, all of this other stuff, pleasing not necessarily the wrong people, but not the right people, you know? And I let some people down. And, you know, when I look back on that, I'll probably like beat myself up over that forever. But it's such a learning. Like, so, you know, there's no such thing as like a real negative experience, as long as you can just sort of turn it around and do something positive with it. So I think the ways that I try and do that is, I am a massive, massive fan of personal values. And that's going to be a big part of my talk, talking about personal values and helping people identify their personal values. I think it's a exercise that everyone should do. Ideally, well, it's definitely at the beginning of their career, like to really understand who they are and, you know, their needs and what drives them. But it's like things change as you grow, and you know, when you change jobs, or when you move house, get married, have kids, like your values will sort of like change a little bit. But my values, they're like creativity, belonging, honesty, and trust. And I can like reel them off anytime anyone asks me. And I think that's the most important thing as well. It's like, you've really got to believe in your values, and really aim to live them, because otherwise, if you're not going to be interacting with the right people that like bring out the best in you, working in the right environments and all of that sort of stuff. So it's like, as long as I've got those 4 things, I'm fine, you know. And once you know what your values are, it gives you a bit more self-assurance in everything you do. Sorry if that noise came up there. But it gives you more assurance in everything that you do, because you know, well, this is who I am, this is what I believe in, and no matter what happens, no matter what people say, that's never going to change. Like, they can't take that away from me. And I think having that grounding, that sort of like, it's like the writing like a stick of rock going through you, then I think that is like a real great jump off point to making things better for you and your well-being. So values, and setting your values, living your values, is a really, really important thing. Then I think for me, there's a big thing around sort of setting boundaries. So you know, remote working, I think one of the challenges that I don't think we talked about was you have this area now in your house, which is where you work. You know, it's just like every time you walk past it, it's there, and you're a constant reminder. I used to like finish work on a Friday, close my laptop, run out and be like, see ya, and like not think about work again until Monday. And whereas now I've got this corner in my house where I'm like, oh my God, and I can see my laptop, and my laptop can see me, and we're like, oh, next time we see each other properly, we're gonna have to write that email or do this presentation. And it's really sort of tough, like, to have a constant reminder of work. And so I think it's really important to like make sure that is a corner of your house that, you know, is just sort of parked off to one side. Like, don't leave your laptop out, don't leave all your notes out, don't leave it all there looking at you like every time you go past it on an evening, on a weekend. Set your boundaries in terms of like what you're willing to do. So I work 4 days a week because that's how I can balance my personal life as well. We have a great policy at Yard where it's like you can start anytime between 8 and 10, and you can finish anytime between 4 and 6, and no one watches that. Like, everyone's like, you know, just crack on with it. You know, we treat people like grown-ups. And so I think, you know, as long as like everyone knows, like, when I log on, I'm logged on, right? But if you start at 8 o'clock, that's for you. Like, but if I'm starting at 10 o'clock that day, that's what I'm going to do. And then when I close my laptop, that is what I'm doing. Like, I'm not doing work anymore. I've got to focus on my family. I've got to focus on myself. So it's really important to sort of like set those boundaries. And also because I think it's like models really healthy behavior for everyone else as well, because it's like, if I've got the boundaries, if I'm telling you what I'm willing to accept and what I'm not, then I expect everyone else in my team to do exactly the same. Like, and you know, sort of shape what work is for them, and then I will completely respect that as well. So I think that's a really important one. And then I think like self-care, like everyone needs to find what helps them in terms of sort of self-care. Like, so I'll have like a sort of like self-care Sunday, you know, like, and go and have a proper bath, you know, like with candles and, you know, oils and all that sort of stuff, and really relax and switch off, listen to a podcast or something that isn't work related, and completely unwind and recharge, ready for Monday, you know. And I think it's really important just to set some quiet time. I'm a big fan of meditation as well, so it's like I'll sort of like all wrap that up in one evening, and by the time that's done, you know, because like weekends are hectic, you know, as any parent will know.
Oh yes.
weekends are harder than work days.
Yeah, so, work is like a holiday.
Exactly. I'm just like, you know, it's like whenever we're like, oh, we got a new bank holiday this year, I'm like, no. But so yeah, so I think it's really important, like especially as a parent on a Sunday evening, like just to sort of like really unwind and reconnect with yourself and just get yourself ready for the next week, sort of thing. I also run as well. I think you know, running is physically good. You know, I love biscuit, so you know, I need to do something. So but obviously it's so good, like, you know, especially if you're stressed out, you just take it out on the streets and just get out there and have a good run. So I think finding something where you can blow off steam. Like, I think what I used to do before I was a parent was go out raving, and that would be my self-care, like just go and like literally like blow off some steam, and that was fine. That worked for me. So that might be what works for other people nowadays, but I am not in that life stage anymore, unfortunately. So going for a run is my thing now. But yeah, and then I mean, obviously, I think like life is about connection and it's about building relationships with people. So I think it's super important to make sure that you're constantly checking in with your friends, your family. And, you know, I think when I'm not in a great place, I actually sort of hide away. And it's like a perpetual cycle. So it's like you hide away, so you feel lower, and then you hide away a bit more, and then you feel lower, and then like, so as soon as I sort of recognize it, like, oh, actually I'm sort of like a bit under the radar at the moment, it's like, right, no, get out there and force yourself in front of like your best friend.
Cool. So yeah, yeah, amazing advice, Lou. I guess just to wrap up, if people want to connect with you and maybe ask any more questions, whereabouts could they find you and get in contact with you?
Well, I am definitely on Twitter. So you can find me at Lou Loud. So that's Lou_Loud. Just so you know, like the reason it is that is my surname used to be Davis. And it was actually only about a year before I got married, but I was like, oh my God, that spells loud. And that was so appropriate for me because I'm so loud. But so yeah, Lou_Loud on Twitter is probably the best place to catch me.
Brilliant. Great. Oh, well, thank you for all of your amazing insights today, Lou. And yeah, really looking forward to your Brighton presentation. Not long now, so
not nervous at all.
It's going to be amazing. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and yeah, cheers. So we covered a lot during that episode, and it was great to dive into Lou's experiences with mental health and some ways that she not only protects her team, but also herself as a leader in what can be a high pressure role, environment, and industry. I thought Lou gave some really great tips for looking after yourself, including defining a set of personal values, setting clear boundaries, ensuring you make time for self-care, including relaxation and exercise, as well as developing meaningful connections with others. Really looking forward to Lou's talk at Brighton SEO. The conference runs on the 20th and 21st of April, so make sure you catch that. In the meantime, if you enjoyed the episode today, please give it a like, comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to the podcast. By doing so, you'll be the first to know about new episodes as and when they go live. Cheers, and see you soon.